Hello, everyone. Welcome to C-Suite Talks. We speak with industry leaders, introducing you to some of the most interesting and influential executives today. We focus on women, money, and power, as well as diversity in all areas. I'm Beth Hilbing, co-CEO of C-Suite, along with
Hi, I'm Dianne Gubin, co-CEO of C-Suite, along with Beth. And this week, we are so happy to be speaking with Rachel Ann Williams. So Rachel Williams is a Bay Area native with over 20 years of experience in Silicon Valley. Rachel is currently the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer at the Motley Fool, a financial services company. And before this, Rachel was the head of equity, inclusion, and diversity at Google X, which is an innovation arm of Alphabet. And there she was focused on ensuring that equity, inclusion, and diversity was at the foundation of multi-billion-dollar companies and the products that they were building. And prior to this, she held roles at StubHub and Yelp. Okay, and in her spare time, because we know how much spare time she has, right? So Rachel serves as a senior advisor to Norwest Venture Partners and Burst Capital. Can't wait to find out more about that. And Rachel has spoken on her work and thought leadership at numerous conferences and universities like SXSW, the White House, North Carolina AT&T, Harvard Business School, Stanford Business School, Northwestern Kellogg, and MIT. She's an active member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, the sorority, and Rachel volunteers her time with her local chapter as well as serves on the board as a member of the Creative. Let me start that again. She serves as a board member of Creativity Explored and Ultimate Impact. I mean, you do so much, Rachel. I'm sorry. Well, let's just very quickly. Rachel graduated from UC Berkeley, and she enjoys spending her time with over 300 family members whenever she can. So, welcome, Rachel. And where are these family members? Are they all right there in the Bay Area with you, or are they national and international? And 300.
Yeah, mostly the Bay Area. We have some up in Sacramento area, but most of us are here in the Bay Area. Traveled all the way from Louisiana, Oklahoma, during Jim Crow era, if you will. So before the 1960s, and found themselves here in the Bay Area, following my uncle, who I think was in the Army and stationed here somewhere here in the Bay Area. So family all came out and followed.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, tell us a little bit about your background and how did you get into DE&I work?
Right, because you have an amazing background.
Thanks. Well, as you mentioned, I'm a Cal grad, very proud, go Bears, San Francisco Bay Area. My parents were very happy that I stayed close to homes. They did lots of pop-up visits, as most parents would love to do on their children when they're close to home. After that, I actually was like, I need to get out. Let me go to Washington, D.C. And I picked the furthest place I could go. My sister was also living there. She had graduated from Howard University. And so I went to live with her in Washington, D.C. And I actually found my first job. I love telling the kids this, through the newspaper. When they used those jobs in the newspaper. Yes, I am that old. And it was a small
we all are.
It was a small advertisement for Anderson Consulting, which is now Accenture.
Right.
So I got a job there in Washington, D.C., but I missed home. So I came home and there was this whole internet thing happening, the internet boom. This is the early 2000s that this was happening. I joined a couple startups in recruiting. Loved recruiting. It was, to me, the fun part of HR, if you will, getting people jobs, changing people's lives, making an impact on the company's bottom line. No offense to my folks in employee relations or benefits. You all do great work, but I thought recruiting was the bee's knees. And I moved my way up in becoming a head of talent at Yelp. That's pre-IPO. So it was 2008,
Wow.
2010.
Wow.
And that is where I experienced things that we all know as part of our lexicon, microaggressions. Like, these weren't words in 2008, 2010, kiddos. Microaggressions and all of the things from a new manager that I had. And it was that new manager.
Well, sorry.
Well, there was also IP theft, which I didn't know that's what he was doing, but basically taking my ideas and passing them off as his own. And I was miserable and frustrated. And like I said, didn't have the language. And I think, having the language now is very helpful to identify what's happening to you, especially women in the workplace. So I left. And this is a cautionary tale. cautionary tale for folks because
Right, because if you sued, you would have been there for the IPO.
That's right, Diane. That is right. I did not get to enjoy all of the benefits that some of my colleagues and the people that I helped to hire got financial gain, right? So I say that to people like this microaggressions, discrimination, exclusion have real detrimental effects to women and underrepresented communities in the workplace. And this one for me was a financial detriment.
And you probably didn't feel like you could sue or anything at that time, right? They probably didn't do
Oh,
that.
sue for what? Yeah, there was no language around it. And me being raised by a boomer mother who was like, you go to your job, you keep your head down. You ask your boss every day before you leave for work what he needs. She assumed he was going to be a man, right? My boss. And my mindset wasn't there. One of the things I'm excited about is that this next generation, they have a language. They are empowered. So many strides have been made in the last, few decades in terms of workplace inclusivity and equality and all of those things. So
Yeah.
anyway,
I don't think my daughters would ever take any of those microaggressions, et cetera, that I know you had as a woman.
I did. Yeah.
But I think it was all women, not just.
No, I have my stories too, but
Yeah.
we did, like you say, just
Yeah.
work, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so I left. I joined another startup. That's what you do in the Bay Area. The bunch of startups that you can join, and you just hope that it's going to IPO and you're going to become one of these zillionaires. But while I was at this startup, I got a phone call from some folks at Yelp that asked me to rejoin. They had a head of diversity and inclusion job. And so that kind of began my diversity career. I had no idea that this was even a job or a thing. And they said they thought of me because I was very explicit in my exit interview, the first go round, about what I was experiencing. And so they decided that because of that experience and of course my recruiting experience, that it'd be great to have me rejoin, and it was a great thing.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So what are, oh, go ahead, Diane.
That was before or after the IPO?
Oh, I rejoined after the IPO.
After the IPO. Okay, got it. And they didn't grandfather you.
I missed that whole thing.
So, okay. All right. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't grandfather. So what are some of the highlights in DE&I? And then why do you think the tide is kind of shifting away from DE&I right now?
Yeah. I know we're seeing it swing the other way. Yeah.
I mean, a decade in this career, I have seen the pendulum swing over the years, but this last few years have been really pretty steep, I would say, swing. In 2020, we had George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd, and that created a lot of interest in this work. We were all very busy. I was definitely burnt out in 2020 and 2021 with all of the requests from folks wanting to better understand how to make their workplaces more inclusive. I was advising, I was on, giving free advice to people, paid advice, like just doing whatever I can because that in our work, and I think it's one of the disciplines where this happens, all of the chief diversity officers want to see all of us succeed because what is that saying about boats and tides, right? And so we get together and we share what's working and what's not working. We talk all the time. And so I was doing my best or my part in trying to help every person who asked me, every leader, every company that asked me to come and speak, to give them advice, to try and do my part to lift all the boats. For last year, though, we had the Supreme Court. Maybe it was even this year. I mean, time since COVID, time is a little.
I know. It's like a balloon.
And again, we're only talking 2020 to now.
So a very short period. The Supreme Court decision to no longer support affirmative action in colleges and universities.
All right. That was last year, I think.
And that was brought on by some conservative faction. And that really sent a fear through the industry, through, all of us who are practitioners who are doing this work. And I think it sent a fear through a lot of, leaders and companies who are like, okay, colleges and universities, it's happening there, and we're seeing DEI departments being let go, dismantled. Then soon they're going to come for individual corporations. I think that's the fear. And I have my moment of being really sad about all of that and what's happening, but I also have found a glimmer of some hope.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
yeah, I feel like there's an opportunity to reframe diversity, equity, and inclusion. When I got into this work about a decade ago, it was all about diversity, increasing representation, hiring people. Share your diversity numbers? What does your organization look like? Um, in my experience, and I'm sure in your experiences as well, that's not the end of the story, just getting in the door.
No,
Most
no,
of the drama happens like during promotions and feedback and all of the other
Right.
things that
yeah,
happen.
yeah,
And
yeah. Especially the pay equity, right?
pay equity, like just like so it's like getting people in the door, that was just like a small part of the story. And I think, it's a decade ago, that was all we were talking about.
and
And
it's the belonging too, right? So this even the
right,
take it one step further is yeah.
belonging, inclusivity. Are you being leveraged for your talents and skills? Like, so you can invite a bunch of diverse voices into the room, but are you actually tapping into that brilliance and leveraging it? So there's a lot more work to be done. And I think this is an opportunity to reframe it. I also think it's an opportunity to be more inclusive. And people are like, well, we were always talking about inclusion. I was like, have we tapped into the majority group to make sure that they understand what their role is in this work?
Right.
We're talking about straight white men who still have power, who still have influence. Like, how do they leverage their power on behalf of good?
Right,
So,
and they feel they're discriminated against now.
right, because we left them out in the first go round. So
Right, right,
I
right.
think
Well,
it's a time now to rethink some things, and I'm
yeah.
excited for that.
Yeah, and we had to be careful because our sons, all of our sons, who are coming into this world and didn't have all that what would you call it? What's the right word? All that the gift of just being a white male, right?
Oh, the privilege.
Right. Privilege. Oh. Like, well, I'm not privileged, right? Oh, geez, it's a soup for sure. Okay, so what are you personally doing? Like, here's the thing, Rachel. You know what? We are looking at you. You are doing the best work of your career. You're out there. You're in the world. So, what is it that you're personally doing, and how can people support you in continuing what you're saying in this climate that we're in right now?
Well, what I'm doing, and I think a lot of other DEI leaders, and something I suggest to other leaders, is what I call quiet work. So I think we went through a period after George Floyd when this work was very loud. Everyone had a commercial, a banner, some sort of public statement, and not very little work going on. Like, and right now, I don't think folks are interested in the public declarations. I think people are interested in, are you auditing your people processes and policies for equity? Are you making sure that the things that you're doing, the programs you have, are serving all of your employees the best that they possibly can? Are you meeting each employee where they are? Do you even know where each of your employees are? Like, so really doing that more quiet work and less of the commercials.
Interesting,
Oh,
interesting.
that's good.
Yeah,
Very good.
and
So can you switch us to, let's talk about venture capital and DE&I.
ooh,
I
favorite
Well,
topics.
think that'll be amazing to talk about with our audience here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you advise startups and venture capital firms.
yeah.
What techniques have you seen that work in those areas?
Because there's a huge gap in funding. We know we've been, as you are probably aware, Beth and I have been very active with Catherine Gray and her Show Her the Money
Yeah.
documentary about why women only get 2% of all venture capital funding. So, do you think D&I work ties into this for sure?
It absolutely does. First, I think that one of the challenges for venture capitalists and private equity is that they don't have diverse networks. I hear a lot about, I don't know where to find underrepresented founders. We don't know where. Yes.
Oh, geez.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
I think there's an opportunity there, yes, to do better.
Yeah.
In the meantime, while you're building your networks, while you're attending those conferences and going to the summits and all of those things to increase and open up your network, you should be funding other funds. So if you're a venture capital firm and you don't have the network, don't know where people are, okay, well, there are other fund managers and other funds that you can pour dollars into who do know where these entrepreneurs and these founders from underrepresented communities live, and trust them because they have the connections and the network to go ahead and make sure that those funds are kind of flowing to where they need to go. That to me is like a first good step until you have built your network. But hopefully you are building your network, you and your organization and your partners and associates are showing up to the right events and to network and to get to know people. I think too, over the last few years, we have seen unprecedented funds being given out. Like I've been in Silicon Valley my entire life, born and raised in San Mateo, which is right in the heart, and been an executive recruiter for a lot of some very well-known venture firms over the decades. And things are now correcting back to a little bit of tightening because of the market and the economy and what's happening. And so I think folks who came into venture capital and to creating your company, you're thinking, oh, money's flowing. In 2021, 2022, it was. 2023, 2024, we're seeing, things tighten just a bit. Yeah. And when I talk to other partners of some firms, they're saying it's going back to the way it was before.
Oh,
Which it's self-correcting because they did have a lot of investments. A lot of those didn't pan out. And so now they're, kind of really getting back to looking at a criteria. But the thing is, as an entrepreneur and founder, you have to get yourself in position. You have to also go and seek out where these people are. I can tell you a couple of restaurants in Palo Alto to start going to hang out in if you need to. But you really gotta go to where these folks are, or spend a little money to go to that summit.
Denny's, like the CEO for NVIDIA, drafted the idea at Denny's.
Right, exactly. These things happen in ordinary places. And so being out in the world and figuring out how to get to people is also something I think entrepreneurs and founders need to do. So hopefully we got everybody looking for everybody. We're all looking for each other.
We hope so. And you know what, Rachel, it goes back to one of the issues as women entrepreneurs, as Beth and I have talked about many times, is that women don't necessarily build scalable businesses that are going to be on the radar of a VC company, whether it's founding females or other, right? So it's really a training level lower on if you're going to start your company. How do you scale?
Yeah. One of the lessons and greatest gifts I learned at Google X, which Alphabet has infinite amount of resources, human, financial, but is thinking about solving a big enough problem. Like, I know people want to, like, hey, we want to help this community, we want to help that community. I think try and think bigger. Always go big. Not just help millions, but can your problem solve something for billions of people? Think big.
No, that's really good advice. I really appreciate that. So what are you focusing on currently in your job at the Motley Fool? What area are you working this year on there?
Yeah, I'm following my own advice, which is I'm evaluating most of our HR processes and our systems to make sure that we're ready for the influx of diversity that at some point we will hire, that we are meeting the needs of our current employee base. We are making sure our employee resource groups are staying empowered by bringing them education, giving them opportunities to raise their hand for the things that they need. So those are the two things I think are kind of hallmarks to diversity work in corporations that we're focused on.
So Rachel, for anyone who's interested in working potentially at the Motley Fool, so two things. First, how big is the organization in terms of headcount? And second, what are the main types of positions that you fill there?
Well, we're a privately owned company, so I'm not sure I should give all of those details, but what I will say.
Oh, okay. No worries.
Okay.
And
so just 100 to 500, 500 to 1,000, or not even?
somewhere in there.
Okay.
All right. What I will say is you can go to fool.com.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you can sign up for free information about how to invest. We have a lot of free tools, a lot of free articles that you can learn on how to invest, which we just had a chat about that before we started. And then we also have our job section, all about us, down at the bottom, so you can check out what opportunities we may have available.
Oh, that's fabulous. So, what are you excited about? What do you see as potential this year as you're looking for people that want to follow in your footsteps or young emerging leaders? What advice would you give them?
Oh boy. Well, you're catching me off of day after the DNC.
Right.
So I'm clearly excited to have a Californian in the race.
And a female. Yeah. So it is historic.
It is very,
it is historic.
I have a bit of hope about that. She's also my sorority sister.
Oh.
And we share a lot. She's from the Bay Area, which is where I'm from. So super excited to see myself represented there. And even if she doesn't win, this is a huge step forward for all women.
Agree.
Like there was definitely a crack or a shattering of some glass last night. And I'm excited for that. I'm excited that this next generation gets to grow up seeing that.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think, sky's the limit for them. And this time now, I'm going to be teaching a class at UC Berkeley, as I mentioned before. And I'm excited to share with this next generation how to find an opportunity or a career that mirrors and matches your own personal value set, right? So I was taught by my boomer mother, take a job, go to work. Like, don't talk about politics. Don't talk about what she thinks my job now is wild. Don't talk about any of these things. Like, keep your head down and you go to work. And now I think it's more of companies display their values and what they believe in, and their products display the value they're adding to the world. And you have a choice as a young person to decide where to give your skills and talents to. And hopefully you've done that work with yourself to figure out, what is it that I value? Not what my mom values, not what my school values, but what is it that I value? And then try and go and find and create a career that mirrors that. I think that leads to happiness. We spend so much time at work, and you might as well be in a place that is going to amplify your own value sets.
That's fabulous. So how do people find you, Rachel? And we want to thank you for being a C-Suite member. So thank you, Rachel, for that.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to our listeners too. Let's not forget that. So Rachel, tell us, how do we find you?
Well, you can find me at rachelannwilliams.com, although I'm probably going to redo the website. You can find me on LinkedIn. I love being on LinkedIn and connecting with folks there. So Rachel Ann Williams, I'm Chief Diversity Officer at the Motley Fool. And other than that, you can catch me on C-Suite.
Yay! So Dianne, why don't you take us home?
Yes. So let's first thank our sponsors. Well, actually, our listeners. Thank you for listening. We always appreciate you so much. And our sponsors, City National Bank, Uncle Nearest, Nutanix, Allspring Global Investments, Co-Brands, and C-Suite Search. If you're hiring for your team, give us a try, C-Suite Search, and hit the subscribe button for us. Anywhere you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, etc. Leave us a review and follow us on social media. We're all over LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, etc. And we love hearing from you. Who should we email, Beth?
Beth at csweet.org, and it's csweet.org. And we'd love to hear from you, and come get active, join, and come to all this great events and meet Rachel in person in San Francisco at one of them. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Rachel. Thank you, Beth.